back in here in a second. Okay, so the reproduction additional focus area is pretty large. There are 4 objectives. I'm going to break them down. One really good way to tackle this particular focus area is to use some charts, whether that be in a table format, whether that be like a Venn diagram. So I'm going to use that throughout this workshop. So I would really consider doing that. Hopefully you have some paper nearby, and I'll take some pauses so that you can try to fill some information in case you've looked at any of the resources. If you're joining this workshop because this is your first kind of thought or look, remember that we did do some of this information in class, so you might know more than you think. The first objective is to be able to describe the difference between sexual and asexual reproduction. So again, a chart like this, a table or a Venn diagram, is a really useful way to tackle that. So I'm going to add some things to this. So we are sexual reproduction organisms. So species that do that, we could add humans. Any other animal is going to do this. So I can't write today. Okay. There are a lot of plants that will do this as well. However, some plants can also do asexual in terms of the fact that they might pollinate themselves. So not all plants, but quite a few plants can self-pollinate. So like their own sperm and egg are going to come together to allow for reproduction to occur. So that would make it asexual because they fertilize themselves. Other organisms that tend to be asexual are things like bacteria, often are asexual. So be able to identify some species that can do either asexual or sexual reproduction. If you've done mitosis in stem cells, mitosis is an asexual process. In this focus area, we're going to be looking at kind of mitosis's cousin, meiosis, which is sexual reproduction or used for sexual reproduction. So in a way, to a degree, we're comparing these two here. So asexual is one partner. Sexual is 2 partners. Okay. They're both going to pass DNA from a parent to an offspring. In asexual reproduction, the parent and the offspring are identical. Because we only have one partner, it's basically cloning itself. But in sexual reproduction, because we have 2 parents, the parents, and the offspring are going to be different. Because we're combining DNA. So this is a really good way to organize and break down information for objective 1. And I would encourage you to add some more. If you haven't looked at any of the resources, add some more information to a chart like this. Okay, objective 2 is focusing on the steps of meiosis and how the process supports reproduction. So first thing I'm going to recommend, if you have not done mitosis in stem cells, do that first because it's a lot easier to understand meiosis if you already know mitosis. So I'm going to proceed because I don't have the data in front of me and I can't remember if you've all done mitosis in stem cells and passed it or not. I'm going to proceed as if you did. But if you haven't, I would really suggest tackling that additional focus area before this one.
Should I leave then? Because I haven't done it.
Yeah, so stay on. I mean, it's not going to hurt, but I would just really recommend that you maybe kind of go back and forth and look at both of them, because it really is going to make things a lot easier if you do mitosis first.
All right.
In terms of meiosis, because this is for sexual reproduction, the goal of meiosis is to make gametes. And gametes is just the fancy word for sex cells. So in humans and animals, that would be sperm and egg. One of the other goals of meiosis is, in order to make these gametes, it has to divide the DNA in half. You got to half it. The reason why we have to half the DNA, these sex cells, remember, if this is my egg and this is my sperm, have to come together to make the new organism, the offspring. Well, if I have a full set of DNA here and a full set of DNA here, I'm going to have 2 times the amount of DNA in my offspring, and I don't want that. That's not going to be good. So I need to, basic math, put a half and a half together to get a whole. So the goal of meiosis is to divide that DNA in half so that we can do sexual reproduction, bring these 2 half cells together. So that is essentially how this process allows for reproduction to occur. It's going to make these half cells so that I can, in turn, do fertilization to make this new whole cell. The other goal of meiosis is to create unique individuals. And it does that by doing some mixing of the DNA that I'll point out. So it helps to make genetically unique individuals. And I'll point that out on this image. So this is the image I picked, but there's other images on the videos and the resources. There are other images online. I would really encourage you to either draw out or print out something like this so that you can make notes on it and identify some of these critical steps, which is what I'm going to do here now. So just like in mitosis, meiosis starts with a cell in interphase. So interphase, again, is when we copy the DNA and prepare for division. Okay, so before we start meiosis, we're going to copy the DNA and grow in preparation to divide. So if we're copying the DNA, and we're going to talk about humans right now, when we have 46 total chromosomes at the beginning. We're going to copy the DNA to get a total of 92 chromosomes by the end of interphase before we start into meiosis. So in meiosis, we're going to go through 2 divisions. By the end of the first division, we're going to be back to 46 chromosomes. By the end of the second division, we're going to be halved at 23 chromosomes per cell. But we've got 4 cells that we make. So 4 times 23 gets us back to that 92 that we started with. There's a couple really important events that happen here. So here in prophase, just like prophase of mitosis, the nuclear envelope, the nucleus is going to disappear. The chromosomes have formed, and we're going to prepare to divide. But you can see that my chromosomes are paired up here. This doesn't normally happen in mitosis. So what happens is, you have 1 chromosome from mom and 1 from dad. So out of your 46, that's 23 pairs of chromosomes. 1 set you got from mom, 1 set you got from dad, and these pair up. These are called homologous pairs because they're coding for the same type of information. Now they look like X's because remember we copied the DNA and interphase. So mine are going to look more like K's, so I have room. So there's two sets here and they're identical. What happens in prophase is these chromosomes can actually swap a little bit of DNA. So these can switch up. This is called crossing over. So we do a little DNA swap. That is one of those events that can happen that can help mix up the DNA and help create unique individuals. One of the other things that happens is how we divide up this DNA is very random. So how these homologous chromosomes line up here in metaphase in the middle, it's not always like the ones from your dad end up over here, the ones from your mom end up over here. It's really random. And remember, you've got 23 pairs, so there's a lot more going on that's in this image. And how that splits is different every single time a cell goes through meiosis. So you're going to get a lot of unique combinations. Couple of terms to throw in here before we move on. Cells in interphase up here that have this two sets of chromosomes, have this 46 count. These are diploid cells because di means two and there's two sets of every chromosome. Once we get down here and we half these cells, these are going to be haploid cells because they've been divided in half. So that is a critical outcome of meiosis. We get those half cells that are our gametes. Otherwise, the basic process is the same as mitosis. Metaphase, they line up in the middle. Anaphase, they pull apart. Telophase, we reform the nucleus. You're going to notice there's no interphase again here in the middle because we want to get to half the amount of DNA. So we don't want to copy it again. So we're just going to copy once and divide twice to get the cell divided in half. Okay. Objective 3 is to be able to compare and contrast mitosis and meiosis. So again, this is one reason why it's good to know about mitosis beforehand. So if we take a look at this, and again, this looks really good as a Venn diagram too. It doesn't have to be a table, but it's a little easier to make a table on a PowerPoint. Okay, both of these processes are cell divisions. We're dividing cells up. Okay, now in mitosis, there's one division, but in meiosis, there's two divisions. We always start with one cell, but in meiosis, we get 4 cells, so 4 cells are made. And in mitosis, only 2 cells are made because we only divided once. The cells go from being diploid and they stay diploid in mitosis because we're making a copy. So it's identical. But in meiosis, we go from being diploid to haploid because we're making sex cells. So we need half the DNA. So those are some of the biggest differences between mitosis and meiosis, definitely the ones that stand out. However, this chart that I have on the next slide also does a nice job of illustrating some of those differences. And this diagram is readily available as well. I just pulled it off Google Images. But there's a lot of kind of versions of this that all look pretty similar. So here's mitosis and meiosis next to each other. Couple things I'll point out just so you don't get lost maybe in some terminology we didn't use. So this right here, this 2n equals 4. N is the number of chromosome pairs. So here I've got 2 pairs, right? Shorts and longs. So 2 times 2 is 4 total chromosomes. So 2n is the common abbreviation for diploid. N is the common abbreviation for haploid. Because I have, remember in math, if there's no number here, it's a 1. 1 set of chromosomes, 2 sets of chromosomes, and the N is the number of chromosomes or pairs of chromosomes. Okay, so again, some of these we've got just this one division, where over here we have 2 sets of division. They're illustrating the process of crossing over right here between these 2 homologous chromosomes. So they're illustrating that process a little bit more elegantly than I drew it. So keeping in mind some of these similarities and differences is really critical for objective 3. Last but not least, in the 4th objective, they want you to be able to describe fertilization in plants and animals and be able to, again, think about some of the similarities and differences. So big things we have here, and when they say animals, think mammals. Mammals have sex chromosomes. So females are XX, males are XY. When they go through meiosis, you're going to end up with the gametes being egg from the female and the gametes being sperm from the male. Plants do, again, a similar process. We have some different terms. So in plants, the male gamete is the pollen. The female gamete is the ovule, so that's the egg. I got a couple images here so that I can point out what happens. So here's kind of an example of a generic flower that you might find on a plant. A lot of plants have both male and female sex organs. So in this case, this is the female sex organ where the eggs are going to be housed in here. Okay. And then these right here, anthers, are the male sex organ. So this is where the pollen is going to be. Okay, and again, ovule. This is the female part. This is why a lot of plants can self-fertilize. So if wind carries pollen from this plant's male organ into its female organ, it can pollinate itself. Or we can have things like butterflies, bees, other pollinators can help with the pollen. Or I can get pollen from a different plant nearby that can come into contact with this female sex organ and pollinate the egg, the ovule. So that's why plants can sometimes do sexual and sometimes do asexual reproduction. In humans, we've talked about this, so I don't want to hammer this out too much. We've got the sperm traveling to reach the egg. One egg is generally released, and this is, again, pretty similar throughout mammals. There's some differences, like obviously dogs release multiple eggs, so do cats because they have litters, right? So they're not going to generally have just one offspring, they're going to have multiple. But the process is basically the same. The egg comes into contact with the sperm. One sperm gets to penetrate, drop off its genetic material. It comes together, make that diploid cell again, starts doing mitosis. All right. So that is it for the 4 objectives. Does anybody have any questions for me?